Burnout didn't teach me to push harder. It taught me how to listen. It taught me that listening to your mind and body isn't a failure, even when it feels like it at the time. I stepped away recently for a few weeks, not because I gave up, but because I finally listened to what my mind and my body were asking for: rest. Now, this video is not about how burnout felt, because I've shared that in previous videos. It's about what I've learned and what I'm doing differently now. Burnout wasn't my mind and body failing on me. It was my mind and body trying to get my attention. And at the time, I was seeing it as weakness, that I wasn't sleeping well, I wasn't eating well, I wasn't dealing with stress and pressure very well, and I couldn't see an end to it. I was seeing it as a challenge and temporary and something that I had to tackle as part of daily life. I was trying to push through that discomfort that I was feeling. But in reality, that was my mind and body sounding alarm bells, trying to let me know that I needed to slow down. I needed to listen, and I needed to tune in to what my mind and body needed. It really is so easy to ignore that because life is busy and we carry a lot of pressure on our shoulders all the time. So that stress and pressure can become very normalized, even though it's incredibly heightened. And it's hard to see that as unsustainable in life. But I've reached a point where I can see and understand what that limit is now for me and where burnout begins to set in. And recognizing that is a strength. It's not a weakness. Slowing down used to feel like failure to me, but it was actually not slowing down that broke me in the end. The guilt that I was feeling for not being able to keep up, not being able to live at a pace that other people demanded of me, not being able to live up to my former self when I was incredibly productive and busy and active. But that's the old me, or at least part of it. But we change. Our mind and body changes. We're not always the people we once were. And we have to learn to slow down. One of the things I've been trying to tackle is that sense of productivity and what that means to me. Because I've always seen being productive as having a high self-worth, because if I'm of value to other people, then that makes me feel good, and feeling good makes me feel a high sense of self-worth. But we can't live for other people all the time. Yes, we have our responsibilities and our obligations and our commitments, but we can't only live for other people. We have to listen to our own mind and body and what our own needs are. And there has to be a balance. And self-worth can't be dictated by other people. We have to set that for ourselves. I found that burnout doesn't respond to reasoning. It responds to care, the TLC that your mind and body need. Overthinking was something that I've always had as a trait, but you can't think your way out of burnout. You can't rationalize it. You can't put these experiences into a box and think that you can pull things in and out when you need them and you can have control over everything all the time. You can forward plan until the cows come home, but all that is doing is keeping your mind constantly on the go. And that was certainly the case for me. I was trying to organize every part of my life so that there was predictability and a sense of control over what was happening, and that I was able to, I guess, find a sense of calm in terms of what was going to be happening in life. But it does mean that there's a trade off, that you can't rest, you can't settle. So that will catch up. And you can't micromanage everything in life. You just can't. So you have to come to terms with that. And you have to realize that it's part of life, that there's unpredictability, and there's only so much you can do about everything that's going on. And you need to learn to let go. So slowing down, calming down, and trying to let the next day flow in the way it needs to is a mindset that I've been trying to apply in my life. So far, it's working okay. Burnout recovery can be quiet. It's not clear, linear. It's not like you have the flu, you know what your symptoms are, you know what you need to take to deal with it, and you know roughly what length of time it's going to take for you to get back to normal, whatever your normal is. With burnout, it's mind and body. So there's physical rest and slowing down physically, and then there's mental rest, and that takes different shapes and forms for everybody. So just like it's quite murky to acknowledge and see burnout when it's happening, when it's building up, when you're in it, it can be just as tricky to realize when you feel like you've recovered from burnout as well. It's a process, and as you'll have seen through this series, it's taken several months for me to feel like I've reached a place that I can say that I've recovered. It's lots of small changes over a period of time. You have to see what works for you, what your body or your mind are responding to as well, and what effect changes are actually having on your life. To give you a brief couple of examples, I try and tune in to my stress levels on a daily basis now. So if I just need to slow down a little bit, or if I'm trying to take on too much within a day, I'll sit down, I'll reassess and go, actually, what could I do tomorrow? Or what could somebody else help me with? Or what could I cut out if I need to, just to slow down and take that pressure off? And that works well for me. And that's a process I wasn't really, I really didn't have in my life before. You know, I sort of live in a very kind of reactive way of living, and it's hard to do that anymore. It's hard to do that after burnout. And another example is I try not to overcommit to anything anymore socially. I find that having too many commitments to other people just puts too much demand on me now. So I take things steady, I take things one at a time. You know, I can't attend like several work dues in a week, or you know, be juggling different opportunities within a week to see different people. It's kind of too much. So I try and spread that stuff out, you know. So, and sometimes that can mean that I keep the weekends safe, which is quiet and no commitments, and it's rest time for me. So there is a balance I have to strike so that I'm not kind of feeling like I'm burning the candle at both ends, really. Like I can't work all week and then have a super busy weekend and then be back the next week and expect to be recharged and ready to go again. You know, it's just too much now. So that listening process and that trial and error process of making change in response to my burnout has meant that I've been able to learn what works for me and what I need in my life as, I guess, as a kind of discipline and a way to frame what I can manage and what makes me feel good and positive, and actually what causes a lot of negative experiences. So I can find the happy medium that I need. So it's all a learning experience. So what works for one person might not work for somebody else, but you've got to try things one at a time and see what effect it has on you. And if it's something that you need to keep in your life, or if it's something that actually isn't manageable for you, or means that you might be cutting out experiences. For me, socializing less isn't a negative, it's a positive. But 20 years ago, version of me, a younger me, would have said socializing was like top of the chain of things to do. So, you know, so now I'm trying to listen earlier on rather than react later on. I'm giving myself permission to pause, to slow down, not feel guilty for doing that, and to be more open to what my mind and body need daily, not just as an exercise once a year or something. And that's okay. You've got to be okay with that. You've got to find that balance, that medium that your mind and body need. I'm adjusting the pace of life as well. I'm not being too busy. I'm not taking on too much. I'm trying to find that balance between what I can control and what I can't, and being okay with that. Control for me is comfortable, but I can't micromanage everything. And by doing that anyway, it's kind of toxic behavior. It's difficult to sustain, and it's quite domineering at times. And I'm quite a relaxed, calm person generally. So there's a balance to strike between over planning, overthinking, over organizing, and the predictability that comes with that, and just what might happen, fate, and whatever is around the corner that you can't predict or control. And it can be difficult trying to say that. It can be difficult for me to say that I'm okay with that, because it's a process, and it's taken a lot for me to be able to admit to myself that control is important to me and predictability in life. I never really saw myself as that kind of person before, in the sense of feeling comfortable with what lies ahead, and that you have some ownership over what is happening in your life and your destiny and future plans. And you can't manage all of that all the time. So if you think you're burnt out, your body isn't the enemy, it's the messenger. Slowing down doesn't mean that you failed. Sometimes it means you finally learned how to look after yourself. Until next time, take care.